How are you, my lovely kids? I hope you're all doing well. I miss each one of you. First of all, before we start the class, I have two notes to tell you about. Number one, regarding your exam, I was really happy and I am proud of each one of you for your amazing marks. I really appreciate your efforts and I appreciate your parents' efforts too. So thank you for all of these efforts and thank you for the perfect marks. Number two, regarding the homework, anybody's asking me why we're not taking any homework, because we are on the exams period. So when we finish exams, we will go back to take assignments or homework, okay? So today's class is going to be reading. We are going to complete the third part and the last part of Two Bad Ants. First of all, we started with reading half of the story, and today we are going to finish it. Number one, we were talking about the genre. The genre of our story, Two Bad Ants, is animal fantasy. When we say animal fantasy, it is a story which animals are characters and behave like humans. They talk like humans and they behave exactly like humans. And the main characters in our story are the two ants that were talking like they are human beings. Okay, now we are going to revise the vocabulary words. We already took them and we revised them more than one time. Just we will go on them super fast. The words to know are goal, discovery, scoop, crystal, journey, joyful, disappeared, unaware. I hope you read after me, okay? Let's start. Goal, discovery, scoop, crystal, journey, joyful, disappeared, unaware. Okay, goal. Goal is your aim or your plan. I plan to do something and I want to reach to it. I plan to get a full mark in my English exam. This is my goal. And I am working to go to it, to reach it. My goal or my aim or my plan. Something desired. Discovery is something found out. You found something, you discovered something. So it is the act of discovering. Scoop. Scoop is a small shovel used to dip up things like ice cream. Crystal. Crystal is a hard and solid piece of material that is formed of a flat surface, and it could be colorful, it could be with more than one color, with more than one size, it could be small or big, and it is kind of stones. This is the crystal for people. When we say crystal, this is what we understand, crystal. But for ants, when they say crystals, they mean sugar and salt. Journey is a long trip from one place to another. You usually go with your family or friends on a journey. Joyful, feeling happy or glad. Disappeared, to vanish. It's not appearing anymore. Nothing. I can't see anything. Unaware. When I am unaware of something, it means I don't know it. I don't know about it. I don't know the information. So I am not aware of the thing. Okay, that's it. So the first part, genre, animal fantasy. The second part, vocabulary. Now let's start reading so we can finish the pages left. Before reading, okay, a quick summary for the story before we complete reading it. Now, all the ants enter the world of a kitchen. They went to a kitchen in a search of sugar crystals for the queen. The queen liked the crystals, so they went to bring more for her because they want her to feel happier because they love their queen. When they were on their long and dangerous journey, they finally reached to the place where they found the crystals. They took the crystals and they were about to go back to their home, but two greedy ants just decided to stay behind, and they decided to stay where they were because they wanted to eat more sugar. They wanted to just eat and eat so they could have this crystal all the time with them or next to them. And over there, when they just stayed there, the problems started with them. The first problem that we read, it was when they end in a giant scoop. The scoop dropped them into a sea of boiling brown coffee. So they just found themselves onto a scoop. The scoop took them to a cup of brown coffee, and they were inside. The man who was drinking coffee was about to drink them. Let's complete the rest of the problems they just faced. We are going to read. We are on page 480. So if you have your books, open them on page 480 to see what are the more problems they just faced in their journey.
They hurried down the walls that held back the lake. The frightened insects looked for a place to hide, worried that the giant scoop might shovel them up again. Close by they found a huge round disc with holes that could neatly hide them.
So, when they were inside the cup, they were about to be drank by the man who was drinking coffee, and then they found a place to hide. So they found themselves on a place behind the cup, which is on a small dish that you just find under the cup. Okay, so where are they right now? See, here you see a red place, okay, and here it seems that this is toast, right? So where do you think they are?
But as soon as they had climbed inside, their hiding place was lifted, tilted, and lowered into a dark space. When the ants climbed out of the holes, they were surrounded by a strange red glow. It seemed
So they were surrounded by a strange red glow. See, they are here, surrounded by red glow.
It seemed to them that every second the temperature was rising.
So what was happening? What was happening inside this red place? The temperature was rising, so they were feeling really hot. They were feeling that they are about to die because of the temperature. It was rising, going higher and higher.
It soon became so unbearably hot that they thought they would soon be cooked.
Okay, so it became unbearably hot, so they couldn't live in that place because of how much hot it is. So they couldn't feel it, they couldn't stay anymore.
But suddenly, the disc they were standing on rocketed upward, and the two hot ants went flying through the air.
So what happened suddenly with them, that they were in a place which is really hot, and suddenly the disc they were standing on rocketed upward. It means it took them up as if they flew super high. So they were flying through the air. Okay, here are they. So it seems, and it is clear for us, that these two bad ants were in a toaster, right? Okay, so the second place they went on after the first cup of coffee, they went into a toaster. Let's see, where are they right now?
They landed near what seemed to be a fountain, a waterfall pouring from a silver tube. Both ants had a powerful thirst and longed to dip their feverish heads into the refreshing water.
So, they landed near what seemed to be a what?
They quickly climbed a fountain, a water.
Okay, so, again.
They landed near what seemed to be a fountain.
They landed where it is seemed to be a fountain. The fountain is a waterfall. Okay, so where are they? Look at the picture. Okay.
Waterfall pouring from a silver tube.
So, the waterfall was flowing from a silver tube. If you notice here, you can see a faucet, right? So, it seems that they are still on the kitchen, and they see this water as a fountain or a waterfall because of their really tiny eyes.
Both ants had a powerful thirst and longed to dip their feverish heads into the refreshing water.
Okay, what was their feeling? They were really thirsty. They felt thirsty, and they were about to dip their heads into the water because their heads were
feverish heads into.
Feverish, it is as if they have a fever because they were on the toaster, so their heads were really hot with a very high temperature because they were in a toaster, and the toaster was really hot. So they really liked the refreshing water because they were thirsty, and their heads was with a very high temperature.
To the refreshing water. They quickly climbed along the tube. As they got closer to the rushing water, the ants felt a cool spray. They tightly gripped the shiny surface of the fountain and slowly leaned their heads into the falling stream. But the force of the water was much too strong.
So they stayed on that fountain, and they felt really cool because of the cool water. But the water was really stronger than them, so it forced them too strong. They went down because of that water. So they went inside. Okay, inside what? Let's see. Look here, it seems that this place is, we are unaware of this place. We don't know any idea about it. Okay, they were next to the faucet. The water was too strong, so they went down. Okay, see, here is the water from the faucet, and they are in a place down. Where do you think they are?
The tiny insects were pulled off the fountain and plunged down into a wet, dark chamber.
So they are on a wet, dark chamber. Chamber is like a bowl. So they found themselves in a big, bowl or a big room. They found themselves in a big place, but where it is exactly?
They landed on half-eaten fruit and other soggy things.
So what did they find inside that place? Is half-eaten fruit, so fruits that are eaten, and soggy things.
Soggy things.
What are the soggy things? Soggy things are the wet and the soft kinds of food. So they found wet and soft kinds of food plus half-eaten fruit.
Suddenly, the air was filled with loud, frightening sounds. The chamber began to spin.
So that chamber or that place where they are started to spin or started to turn very quickly. So if we just think about of the place they are in, we remember that they were next to a faucet, right? And after that, they went down because of the strong water, they went down. Now, if you look at this place, you can just notice that the ants went down here, so they are really here, exactly here. At this place, you can find it under the faucet in the kitchen, and this place, it is used to swirl the garbage, okay, any kind of tiny food that goes inside. So the ants are here exactly.
The ants were caught in a whirling storm of shredded food and stinging rain. Then, just as quickly as it had started, the noise and spinning stopped.
So the noise started, it was really loud sound, and suddenly it stopped after the storm of
shredded food and stinging rain.
Okay,
then
so shredded food is a food that is cut into tiny and small pieces. So the place where they were in, it is used for swirling the garbage. So any kind of food that is really big, it becomes like shredded, or it is cut into small pieces. So after that, this spinning or this sound stops.
Just as quickly as it had started, the noise and spinning stopped. Bruised and dizzy, the ants climbed out of the chamber.
Okay, how were the ants when they just went out from the chamber? They were
Bruised and dizzy, the ants climbed out of the chamber. The tiny insects were
bruised and dizzy. Bruised, they were injured. Okay, dizzy, they were like fainting, like they are unaware. They lost conscious. They can't walk steady because they just feeling dizzy and injured. Okay, so the first place was the cup of the coffee, the second place was the toaster, the third place was in the faucet, on the faucet and inside.
In daylight once again, they raced through puddles and up a smooth metal wall. In the distance, they saw something comforting. 2 long, narrow holes that reminded them of the warmth and safety of their old underground home.
Okay, now the new place they went to, it was like a metal wall, and they found long and narrow holes. 2 long and narrow holes. Look here, these are the 2 and long narrow holes, so they are on an electric outlet.
They climbed up into the dark openings.
So they went into these holes to see where they can go.
But there was no safety inside these holes. A strange force passed through the wet ants. They were stunned senseless and blown out of the holes like bullets from a gun.
Okay, now of course these electrical outlets are not safe. There is no safety inside because they are filled of electricity. So they stunned senseless. It means they shocked by the electricity and they went out from it because it shocked them. The electricity shocked them.
When they landed, the tiny insects were too exhausted to go on. They crawled into a dark corner and fell fast asleep.
Okay, now before they go onto the electrical outlet, they were next to the water, so their body was wet because of the water. Then they went into an electrical outlet, so electricity with water, of course it is a big shock. So the electricity shocked them, they went out of it, and they were too exhausted. They were really, really, really tired.
Night had returned when the battered ants awoke to a familiar sound. The footsteps of their fellow insects returning for more crystals.
Okay, so finally they woke up after a long sleep because they were really tired and exhausted. Night came. They started to hear a familiar sound. The familiar sound was the sound of their fellow insects. Fellow insects, it means their mates or their friends, the other insects. They came back with more crystals.
The 2 ants slipped quietly to the end of the line. They climbed the glassy wall and once again stood amid the treasure. But this time, they each chose a single crystal and followed their friends home.
So they went onto the line of the ants, of the other ants, of their friends. They went really quietly, so nobody can notice, and then each one of them took a crystal, and they went with their friends back home.
Standing at the edge of their anthole, the 2 ants listened to the joyful sounds that came from below. They knew how grateful their mother queen would be when they gave her their crystals. At that moment, the 2 ants felt happier than they'd ever felt before. This was their home. This was their family. This was where they were meant to be.
So finally they went back home. They were feeling happy and happier than any other feeling they just felt before, because they went back home, they went to their family, they are now safe, and they feel that they are in a place that they couldn't be harmed or injured in it, because it is their home. So although they made a mistake, but at the end they turned back to the right place they have to be in all the time. Okay, so let's start with the story elements. The setting was, we had two settings: in the hall where the ants live, and in the kitchen. Characters are the two bad ants, the other ants, the queen, and the man who was almost about to drink them. The theme or the main idea. The main idea of this lesson, what we learn, what we get from this lesson, is that we have to be one. We have to be group. Together we can do anything. But if we split from our group, we are going to be like weaker. So never split from your group. Stay with your group, because you will be stronger. If you just split from your group, you will be weaker. And always stay with your guide. Whenever you have a leader, you have to follow his instructions. You don't have to just go away from your leader or guide. You have to believe in what is called leadership. Okay, the problem started with when the two ants decided to stay behind where they are, and they never go back with their leader and their mates or their friends. They behaved greedily. And the solution, after a long journey and a lot of problems, the ants went back to the hall where their mates and the queen were there, and they felt happy and happier than any other feeling they would feel before, because they turned back to their home and to their family. Okay, so all the ants entered the world of a kitchen in the search of sugar crystals for the queen, but two greedy ants stayed behind in the sugar bowl, and they just decided to stay where they are and never go back with their friends and their guide. The first problem they just faced when they stayed alone, when they split from their group, is being in a sea of boiling brown coffee. They went into a heated stay in the toaster. They went into a swirl in the garbage disposal, and then into an electrical outlet. And then when they went back, they gladly rejoined their friends and family, and they stayed safe at home. Okay, that's all for today's class. We finished reading the story by this moment. If you have any question about any part, either the genre, vocabulary, the story itself, any word which is unclear, the main idea, the setting, the story elements, if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask me. And good luck for you all. When you finish the exams, we will start the assignments again. So no homework for today. Enjoy and have a nice day.